Hey everyone, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at. Hopefully everyone's having a very good day today. If you haven't seen the news in the last week, here at StackBob, we released our Microsoft Entra ID native reconciliation flow. This is really big news for us, right? This essentially closes that loop for any application provisioning reconciliation on the Microsoft Entra ID platform. And we've always supported every IGA platform out there, but in releasing this native workflow, we've been getting a lot of questions. What does it provide? How does it impact the existing IGA market? How can it help my IGA install? So I wanted to take this opportunity to walk through what is Agentic IGA? How can it help your existing IGA? How can it extend connectivity into all those applications in your environment? So let's go through the presentation, or what I've got here today from a video perspective. Let's have fun with this. I've been doing IGA for a very long time. So I've seen the maturity over the years, where we started with directory sync all the way up to, the Agentic IGA that we're building and putting out to market. So it's really exciting times. It's really fun for me and the team here at StackBob. So let's go through this. To start, I want to go through what existing IGA does today, right? So when I think IGA, I think inputs, outputs, event management at the end of the day, right? So we have a new hire that started. Nick's a good guy. He just got hired. He's going to be a good worker for the organization. Once I get added to that HR platform, I am now hired. There's going to be an event that fires, and it pushes my info over to your existing IGA platform. At that point, this is where the magic happens. We start having fun. IGA is going to go through, it's going to look at my department, my job code, my status, type of employee, a bunch of data about me as an employee, and it's going to start making a bunch of decisions to say, I need access to applications X, Y, and Z. And at that point, it's going to start firing off a bunch of events and going out and provisioning accounts in all those target applications. At this point, I have Active Directory, I have an on-prem application, I have ServiceNow, Salesforce, whatever it may be. But there's one big thing that stopped in this provisioning flow. If you notice on the screen, that disconnected app at the top, it stopped at the ServiceNow ticket. At this point, I've got all the applications I need. A ticket has been opened on my behalf to provision to that disconnected application, whatever it may be, and I'm off to the races at that point. But this is where the challenge starts coming in. That disconnected application, I now have to wait for the admin to pick up that ticket. Once they pick it up, I get added by them. And this is a common failure point, or a possible failure point in contention, right? There is no connection between that disconnected app, the ticket that was fired, and admin actually has to copy and paste that info over. This introduces an error point, copy and paste errors, additional access that was granted. Maybe they gave me the access that the IGA platform said I needed, but I needed something else, and I manually emailed them, or I added a secondary comment to the ticket. This is where the breakdown starts happening with IGA, right? The other thing to think about is I've been added to that target application, but the IGA only knows that the ticket's closed. It doesn't actually know that I have access. So what we built over the years is this trust but verify concept, right? I was added. Now we start importing flat files to essentially reconcile all the access that's in the application. And this is where we start catching, rogue access, tickets that were completed, or additional access that was granted on my behalf, right? So now, for every disconnected application in the environment, I've got an outbound ticket that needs to be created. And then I also need to create these reconciliation flows, these flat files, to import that data and validate what I asked someone to do via ticket, right? The other thing that we're not showing on this diagram is, what about everything else in the environment that I need access to fulfill my job, to do my daily activities, right? IGA has no clue about those, right? They're more tribal knowledge, environmental knowledge. My manager probably knows, or other people in my department may know. The IGA platform didn't do anything with those. So at this point, I have access to what the IGA knows about, but everything else I do not. And this is kind of another breakdown that starts happening in the environment. At this point, I need access to those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start firing off emails to the key contacts for those applications. Maybe my manager knows, maybe someone else in my department knows, maybe my department owns the application and it's completely outside of that visibility layer with the governance platform. So now Governance knows what it provisioned for me. It doesn't know about all the other stuff. And this is one of the other challenges that comes up with the current connector approach, right? Is IGA will provision all the access I need. It'll fire those manual tasks for what I need. And the inverse of the event. So a hire came through, maybe a term comes through, right? It'll go off and remove all the access that it knows about, but all those other apps that I manually requested, whether it's via ticket or directly emailing a key contact, those still remain unless someone notices that I'm no longer need access, right? So now let's look at Agentic IGA and how this changes that paradigm. I'm going to mention a couple of key distinctions on this diagram. Is if you look at the top, we don't have the concept of disconnected apps anymore. Through Agentic IGA, we can learn those applications and provide a full-fledged connector. The second thing I want to mention or highlight in this diagram is if you look on the StackBob Agentic IGA on the bottom there, these are bidirectional connectors. So these are full SCIM interfaces. Your IGA platform, SailPoint, Microsoft Saviynt, whatever it may be, can not only push users and entitlement data via the groups interface, it's also getting a regular feed from those interfaces to maintain its status quo and catch access outside of what it has been pushed to those target platforms. So this is a full-featured connector. It's not a manual ticket and flat file. It is a full bidirectional connector. So let's walk through what we did before. Same hiring process, same flow. Nick gets hired. He gets added to the HR platform and gets pushed to that IGA platform. SailPoint, Saviynt, Microsoft, whatever it may be. At that point, the magic happens again. It says, based on my department, based on my job code, other attributes about me, I need access to all these applications. And it's going to start firing off all those requests. Now, if you notice, there's two lines going down to the Agentic IGA platform provided by StackBob. We provide individual connections to each application in the StackBob platform, so they look and feel like a target application or an individual connector from our upstream IGA perspective. Right? We're not consolidating. It's not a single connector, and it's a fan-out approach, so to speak. They're individual applications. They have their own entitlements. They map to the different JML operations and RBAC policies that may be in place, right? Once it hits the StackBob layer from an Agentic IGA perspective, our Bob agents pick up that activity just like a normal connector, and we'll reach out to the target applications and add my info, right? Additionally, it's going out to those applications and it's reconciling all that info back into the StackBob platform. So the next time the upstream IGA platform asks for the current data set, it can provide that near real time. It's not going out via request and trying to process this and send it back up. It's doing it like a normal aggregation job. And this really changes that paradigm of we don't need to do the flat files. We don't need to do the disconnected apps. We don't have to have all those manual processes. And at the end of the day, we can pull back all those unknown applications and provide a full or near full visibility to that upstream IGA platform. So this is super exciting from an IGA practitioner perspective, because we're fully automating your target application environment. So if you have any questions, you want to see the Microsoft Entra ID native flow, you want to see the integrations with other IGA platforms, reach out. I've got my email address here, nick@stackbob, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good day, everyone.